Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for watching Stay in Your Lane with Triple T Transport. Today's discussion is going to be on, is the market softening out there everywhere, or is it in regions? What's the impact on pricing? Again, today we got Joe Lombardo, E Avenue and Associates. Joe's vast knowledge, most of you know, 20 years with Nestle, 10 years previous to that with Nabisco, and the nearest 10 years he's been consulting president of E Avenue and Associates. So everybody, give you a little background on Joe Lombardo. Most of you know Joe. I think even for some period of time, Joe, you were president of the Food Shippers Association, weren't you?
President for a couple of years. I was chairman of the board, on the board. So yeah, that was more in the beginning of the 21st century there, when I had those roles. So I enjoyed it.
Good. Well, talking about the market, we've seen a little bit of a shift. We're seeing it shift, I'd say, the past 4 or so weeks. So we're seeing the capacity loosen. What's your thoughts as to why?
Well, I think a couple of reasons. I think finally some shippers and some retailers, they finally have filled their supply chains. I mean, they were struggling to get product in. I think they've got to the points where they need to be on inventory. On some cases, I think on other cases, I think business has slowed down because there's a natural slowdown at certain times of the year on certain categories. And I think inflation is probably dealing with this, with the price of fuel, with food inflation. People might be trading down. They're trading down to certain other categories. So I think inflation is driving some behavior. That behavior might be is affecting the freight market. So I think you got a lot of different things going on at the same time.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we're seeing the impact of the increase in fuel, the inflation that you're speaking of, but also I think the other thing that most people aren't wanting to acknowledge, most shippers in the past 3 and 4 months have handed out some pretty hefty price increases. So with that being said, I think that leads us to the inflation.
Okay.
So if you're a normal American in the United States right now, your gas bill just doubled in the past 12 months. Your fuel bill and your grocery bill is on the verge of being up 25-35% in the past 12 months across the board.
Yeah.
So I think that at some point in time, push comes to shove. On top of what you said with maybe a slowdown time of the year, where people are getting ready to be done with the school year, and it's the holidays are kind of over with. The next holiday coming up is Easter, but I don't think the weather has been great either.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people have maybe gotten over the pandemic. But also through the pandemic, learned to live a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I think that there's multiple factors to your point that we're seeing categorize where we are from a capacity. However, I do think that it wouldn't take much to tighten capacity back up.
I would agree. I would agree there. I mean, I'm not going to say the market's fragile, but you get a couple of events, weather events out there, or you could see the market turn pretty quick. The other thing that I've noticed, again, I've talked to some people, and they're saying that they used to get the communication they get from large shippers. A lot of large shippers would go out to their carriers and say, "Hey, I got extra loads in these markets." And, for some big shippers, it might be 100, 150 loads a day they were having problems covering. And these carriers and brokers will come, they're telling me now maybe there's 20 or 30 loads. So you can see more freight's moving at the contract rate. And to your point, the contract rate is probably a lot higher than elevated, than it was a year ago because of the rate increases. So, and also, again, like I saw something yesterday, one of the services said that maybe it was Freight Waves, that the load to truck ratio is gone down considerably in the last couple of weeks. You know, you got 5 loads per truck or 3 loads per truck, whatever that number is, which is pretty much, you know, that's pretty much an even market when it's that low. It's when you get ratios like 12-1 or 15-1, that's where you get the shortages and the capacity constraints.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. The market, up in New York, for example, in many locations, but I think across the whole country in January, we saw a peak of a 40% rejection rate on load tenders, refrigerated load tenders.
Refrigerate out of the Northeast, you said, or
out of the whole country as a whole?
Oh, the whole country. Okay.
40%, and then pockets in the Northeast, the New York market. Whether you were loading in the Syracuse side or the Buffalo side, Eastern or Western New York, it didn't matter. It was 70 to 90 loads per truck.
Wow.
So, if we see an uptick in volume, I think we'll see. But I think that many people have increased some inventory capacity, and they've maybe built up some inventory along the lines of that and the time of the year.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a quiet spell before the summertime hits, where people start to try and plan and get ready. I think the housing market's dropped.
Yeah.
And I somewhat, because I think interest rates have hit it some. And I would say that overseas, the conflict over there is definitely making an impact back here.
Yeah.
So
that and the fact that China's locking down entire cities because of COVID. I mean, Shanghai is, I think half the population's probably in lockdown right now because of the COVID spikes that they've seen. So again, how does that translate to commerce? Loading ships and getting product out.
Yeah. Well, when's the new year where they shut down?
I think that's passed already. That's passed already.
That's early in the year for them. That's first quarter. So I think at this stage of the game, we're still seeing long delays on a lot of material, though. When you go to the store to buy stuff, you're seeing back order scenarios have not improved, but the capacity situation has. So navigating the major swings in the market, I don't think anybody on my side of the fence is saying, hey, we know what rates are going to be and capacity is going to be for the rest of the year.
Yeah. I would agree. I mean, again, it's a crapshoot. I mean, when you're trying to predict the market in these kind of conditions, it's in a normal time it's hard, and this time it's probably impossible.
Yeah, I would agree. So what we're seeing, I think that we're going to continue to see freight capacity tighten in the Southeast.
Okay.
In the South Central, the Texas, the Florida, the Georgia regions. I think we're going to see those stay tight and continue to tighten up through June. And I think July, vacation season, without COVID stopping a lot of vacationers this year, we could see a pretty flat July.
Okay.
That we haven't seen in the past. If we don't have anything crazy, natural disasters. Now we're seeing tornadoes and stuff like that right now.
Right.
But we're not competing with FEMA like in 2017.
Right.
So I think that everybody's going to, on our end, what we're doing here is we're going to play close to the vest, communicate, and work to drive efficiencies from a cost perspective, and knowing that the market could tighten up overnight.
Yeah.
In some regions. Have you heard lately how capacity is out of Southern California getting the containers unloaded?
I think it's gotten better, but there's still a backlog there, but it's nothing like it was 6 months ago when I had 150 ships out there. I think it's better contained now. It's still they're probably still breaking records at the 2 LA ports on containers coming in, and I think there's been few challenges on the East Coast, as again, as shippers have shifted cargo away from Southern California. I think you've had some holdups in Charleston, Savannah, where there've been some ships that have had to wait some extra time to get unloaded, which you usually don't see on the East Coast. But again, I think it's, again, it's those reactions, and you do something here, and then the next there's a step that happens because of that.
Oh yeah, every action comes to reaction.
Yeah, reaction. Now, that's what I was trying to say, right?
What was it? In December, the discussion was the backlog could be 6 to 12 months before they're back to a normal pace and a normal dwell time in the port.
Right. Well, the other thing to keep in mind is the West Coast labor agreement with the ILWU that it comes up in June 30th this year. I believe they've started to negotiate, but that's a pretty those talks get pretty tense. And if there's any kind of labor slowdown, you've had lockouts in the past, you've had walkouts, so I think a lot of shippers are looking at that, saying, I want to get in front of this, and maybe I'm going to start moving some of my shipments, to the Gulf or to the East Coast, because I don't want to be stuck, if the ILU or if the group that represents the ports, if they start getting crazy and blocking people out and doing other stuff. So I think you're going to see some shifts because of that, and people are really looking at that situation.
Definitely. It never seems to fail, but I think the majority of that business historically is the second half of the year also.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. A lot of it is. Yeah. Yeah. Retail for Christmas, the retail, sure.
Third and fourth quarter, that may still rear its head. I don't know, but I know that we're in a position where we recognize that the market's softened, but I think there's going to be some regions that are definitely strong, and we have to be careful of, and then we got to navigate the other period.
Right. Well, this is a good example, John. If you have a good relationship with your carrier, if you're truly a partner with a carrier, this is where a carrier hopefully would come to a shipper and say, hey, things are a little soft here. I can maybe do some things for you. If you can help me here, I can help you there. So that's where that you get some of that horse trading going on. But if you're a shipper that's traditionally beating the crap out of carriers every time you can, you'll never get that call, because it's an adversarial relationship. I'm hoping there's less out there than when I was doing this on a daily basis.
Well, and I think if you have the 90-day review clause in there, you can feel better about going to do that.
Yeah.
If you're being held to 12-month pricing or trying to hold for 12-month pricing, I don't know that you'll be so quick to have that conversation.
Yeah, true.
If you're doing the 90-day review and you say, hey, we're gonna make some changes now based on the last 90 days, but knowing that it may flip, we may have to come back to the table for it in another 90.
Right.
I think that scenario allows for that. But if you're trying to make it through the third and fourth quarter on your pricing that you're getting right now, then you're probably going to have to hold serve.
Yeah, you'll be in the spot market.
Yeah, you'll be in the spot market big time if things change.
Yeah.
I think it's a good conversation. I'm glad and thankful that you made time again for us this week.
Oh, no problem.
And
enjoyed it.
Moving forward, I don't know what next week's discussions are going to be, but I'll reach out to you. I'll shoot you an email.
Sure.
If anybody's enjoying the podcast, definitely like and share. And we appreciate you watching.
Yeah, thanks, John. You have a good one.